What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here, and today on the table we have the McNees PM Mac 2 3.5. It's a mouthful, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about this knife right here, let you know what I think about it, and kind of share some thoughts, maybe compare it to a couple other things out there. So, jumping right into it, this is a USA-made folder from Jonathan McNees, based out of Tennessee, I believe. He does a lot of work in his shop. He does some work is outsourced within the U.S., according to him and his website. Yeah, so I guess you could call this a mid-tech. That's kind of a blurry term nowadays, but it definitely falls in, the category of small batch production at the very least. So this is a really interesting design, and not one that I gave a whole lot of looks at. I think I had the original, the Mac 1 a couple years back. I think I did a trade with a buddy of mine, and it was a little small. It was the 3 or 3.25 inch blade one, and it wasn't really to my liking at that time. A couple things I didn't like about it. But I was able to borrow this one from my buddy Chris, Bacon Swag FL on Instagram. He sent me this and a couple of others. And yeah, I've had a couple of weeks, really, well, in about 10 days to kind of check it out. And I've carried it and I've done some work around the house with it and things like that. So I am ready to share my opinion on it. So some dimensions on it real quick. It is a 3.5 inch blade right on the nose, and it is also a 1, 2, 3, about a 4 and a, I don't know, a little more than 4 inch handle. And it is really efficient in the way that it uses its size. When you look at this knife, it does not look like a knife with a 3.5 inch blade. The handle is fairly diminutive in comparison to the blade, and it just looks very compact, but it's actually quite hand-filling, and the blade is in that 3.5 inch sweet spot, which a lot of people really like, myself included. So just do a couple of size comparisons here. There it is with the Spyderco PM2. Same blade length, but as you can see, blade to handle ratio, not 50-50, but it's real close, without having any sort of danger getting cut or anything like that. So it's a very efficient design, which really impresses me. Anyway, more on that later. In any case, so there is the Spyderco Native 5. All right, so it's really the carry profile between this and the Native 5, frankly, isn't all that different. I mean, the Native 5 is a little shorter in the handle, and, it's about a 1/2 inch shorter in the blade. And it's got a lot more cutting edge. I mean, the cutting edge is almost, it's over 3.25 inch cutting edge right there. So, let's see, the Ontario Rat 1, that's another 3.5 inch blade, maybe just a hair over, much longer in the handle, as you can see. And then, kind of closing it out for the size comparisons, there is the ever-present Chris Reeve Knives Vinza 21. So once again, very efficient use of size. Now the Sabenza does have like a 3.63 inch blade. It's just a tad longer, but once again, much longer handle. So really impressed with the efficiency of the design, packing a lot of blade into a pretty small handle. Action on this guy, well, as you can see right there, it is running on bearings, and it has got a very drop shutty action. Frankly, a little bit more than I really prefer. But yeah, you can definitely flick it out with a spidey flick or middle finger flick. You can easily do that, with a thumb as you normally would. Yeah, action on it is fantastic. Typical frame lock folder. Nothing really jumps out at you in the construction. It's very simple, very Spartan in design. But yeah, the action on bearings, really, it's like I say, it's a little bit more drop shut than I would like. When I think of a perfect example of a bearing action, I've got to go to Shirogorov right there, where it's just smooth, hydraulic. It just drops under control. It doesn't have so much of a guillotine or free fall movement, like this one does. I mean, frankly, if it were me, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing this one on washers, to be perfectly honest with you. This is just such a knife that just speaks work, that it just screams to be used and to be worked hard. I really wouldn't mind seeing this on washers. That being said, I did not take this apart. It's not mine, as I've said, but you know, I'm sure the owner, if I had asked, he would have no problem with me breaking it down, but I decided not to do, you know, even ask for that. But I wouldn't be surprised to find, you know, Skiff or Delrin bearings from TI Connector, because they don't feel like your standard run-of-the-mill USA knife maker, you know, box of 300 bearings. They seem a little more, I don't want to say custom, but a little more high-end, more expensive bearings than that. But I could be wrong. But yeah, it is exceedingly smooth. You really can't hear or feel any friction like you typically can with, you know, your run-of-the-mill bearing knife. So you don't really even feel it. You don't, there's that vibration that you get with bearings. We're going against, you know, when they're running on the races or they're on the, you know, in contact with the blade, there's a definite vibration that you feel, and you don't get that with this one right here. So that is also quite impressive. Now, speaking to the blade to handle ratio, it does come pretty close. Now, I don't think this tip would be a real problem, but it is possible. You know, it does, after maybe a couple of sharpenings, that tip doesn't have too much of a drop to it, so that tip may get a little bit closer to possibly being an issue with you. You know, when you have it in your pocket, you're not gonna, you know, you're putting your hand in your pocket like that, you're not gonna make any contact back here. You know, the ricasso right there is just fine. It's not, you're not in any danger of cutting yourself or anything like that. But you know, there is always that risk. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, with a Spyderco, you really, it's damn near impossible to get your finger in there. You know, it may possibly cut yourself. And then the only other company I think does it really well, and this really isn't the best example on this F95, but is Shirogorov, where they really pack the best blade to handle ratio and do a great job of tucking the blade away, using different tricks and everything else. Now, this one isn't the best example of that, but on the 111s and even on the F3s and possibly the Neons too, they do a real good job on that. In any case, yeah, the action's fantastic. Ergonomics, can't complain about a darn thing. Possibly, right, wait, correction. Possibly this pocket clip right here. While it is great, it goes in and out of the pocket pretty easily. It does tend to get hung up a little bit going into jeans where it doesn't quite want to seat all the way. It kind of pinches, and maybe you've got that much sticking out and you kind of have to force it down into the pocket. But it's really not that big of an issue. The other possibly ergonomic issue is this corner to the pocket clip right there, where you can definitely feel it when it's in hand. It is sharp. I've brushed up against it a couple of times while you know, just having the knife in my pocket, and it is noticeable. So maybe that's something that could get softened in the future, but it's really not that big a deal. Certainly not a deal breaker. You know, the jimping is effective. It's nice. It's rounded here, but it's not overly crowned, so you still get some traction on it. So I definitely appreciate that. I would like to see maybe some people are really going to disagree with me on this because they hate jimping, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more jimping, maybe up to where the blade drops or just before that. A little bit more jimping, so you know, if you're doing cuts like this or any sort of push cuts, you'd have a little bit more purchase with your thumb. But once again, certainly it's a nitpick. It's nothing that would stop me from getting one of these for myself. Pardon me. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's a 20 CV blade. Don't know what the heat treat is. M390 and its analogs, 20 CV, 204P. Generally speaking, not my favorites. I find them to be somewhat chippy no matter what the heat treatment is, whether it's a little softer or, you know, at the optimal, you know, 61, 62 HRC. I tend to find it to be a little chippy. I did notice some, you know, I've stropped them out, but there were some microchips and microchipping that was happening along the blade when I was using it. It was nothing major. I was able to strop it out for the most part. But you know, 20 CV it's just not my favorite, but you know, I prefer more of the non-stainless steels anyway. when it comes to stainless, you know, S90V is 100% my jam all the time. Not a lot of makers use it. It's kind of expensive, a little more harder to work with. So, I mean, 20CV is it's definitely a safe choice when it comes to blade steel. You know, it's certainly not my first choice, but it's a safe choice and it'll appeal to a lot of people. So no major complaints on that. It just happens to not be my favorite. This particular knife, it really could use an edge. Once again, I almost reached out to the owner and said, hey, you want me to sharpen this? But he's got his own stones and he's got a KME, I think. So he'll put his own edge on it. You know, there's no reason for me to say, hey, I'll sharpen this for you. I know he likes doing that on his own. You never know. Maybe he would have appreciated it if I did ask, but he sharpens well. You know, so I'm not going to say, hey, let me put my edge on your knife. He does a good job. I mean, you can tell he enjoys doing it. So, you know, I didn't reach out to him to do that. But, you know, I did work with this knife. I had some house projects. You know, I had to repair some patches in my drywall, you know, after going all Kyle on the wall and putting holes in it. No, I'm just kidding. There was just some remodeling stuff that we did, and I had to patch up some drywall. So I was shaping some of the drywall with the knife. I was up on a ladder. I was cutting tape when I was doing painting and kind of edging things like that. I use this knife quite a bit. I mean, I didn't heavy use it or anything like that, but like I say, this knife just begs for a job. It really does. It is definitely a good choice for a knife that you can carry and just go to work with. So, I mean, frankly, end of the day, there's a few things that, you know, if this were my knife, I would change. You know, one of the first things I would do is I would try to put some grease in the ball bearings to kind of slow them down a little bit. Because like I said, I mean, this is a great action, but it's not my ideal action. So if I own the knife, I would try to do that. If that didn't work to my satisfaction, I may try to tension the lock bar over just a little bit to see if I can get that to slow down a little more. But like I say, you know, this might be perfect for you. That's just saying, you know, that's what I would do if this knife was mine. And that being said, I do want to get one of these. I have joked around with Chris and said, oh, you have a new favorite knife. I think you just got a Spartan Harsey or something like that. And it's a grail of his. And I was like, oh, so you don't need the McNees anymore. I can go ahead and just take that off your hands. Yeah, that didn't go over. I offered a trade with him. That didn't go over either. So I'm going to have to try to find my own Mac 2 3.5. So other than that, you know, I really can't complain about this knife at all. I think it's a definite win. It's something that if you're interested in getting one of these and you're on the fence, they are hard to come by. They tend to sell out pretty quickly. I know he's been doing some drops this week. This is the last week of March, and he was doing drops all week randomly on the site. I popped over just a couple of times to see if I could catch anything. I didn't catch a dang thing, so I wasn't able to get one. But I'm gonna keep my eyes open for one, maybe on the secondary. Maybe I'll get lucky on a drop or something like that, but we'll have to see. Yeah, incidentally, one last thing that kind of was the same thing that bothered me about the previous version of the PM, that it's not a super like pointy knife. I do really prefer a good sharp point. It would improve with a new edge, but just by design, it is not a real pointy knife. So just kind of keep that in mind too. I mean, you'll have no problem, like, you know, if you got to stab in and then cut, do something like that, you're not going to have a problem with that. But, you know, if you want to do some fine task or you just want to do the point, use the point, it may not be the best knife for that. But as an all-around, just do-all worker knife, I don't think you can really go wrong. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. I think it's great. Bacon Swag FL on Instagram. Thank you for letting me borrow this, as long as the Hogue and the Pro Tech as well. I really do appreciate it, man. I'm going to get these back out to you ASAP. Since you're not going to let me keep this one. I tried my best, but it ain't going to happen. In any case, I appreciate you guys checking it out. Go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface. Give my friend Chris a follow at Bacon Swag FL. If you haven't done so already, please do click that subscribe button in the corner there. That does help out the channel quite a bit. It gets my content pushed out to more people, and you know, if more people are watching and everything else, hopefully I can grow this channel and and get some good content out to more people. So I definitely appreciate that. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you're trying to get one of these, are they on your radar? Were you able to snag one recently? What do you think about this, the McNees PM Mac 2 3.5? USA made blade folder. USA made folder. Gotta love it. Thanks a lot, y'all. Bye.